You know that in March 2010, repos and corporate bonds was introduced to attract foreign investment in 2010. For G-SEX, it was increased from 5 billion to 10 billion. Corporate bonds from 15 to 20 billion. And the Honorable Finance Minister in his budget speech did something revolutionary. I don't think it has even sunk deep into many of the financial minds. I do not know if the people sitting here are an exception. What did he do? Opened up Indian mutual fund industry and gave it access to qualified foreign investors. This, I think, is a game changer. Any qualified investor sitting anywhere in the world today can access Indian equity through an Indian mutual fund. What would it do? To me, it will increase the depth and the capability of the Indian mutual fund to act as a cushion so that the Indian markets will be able to absorb a certain amount of volatility when FIIs pull out money in a hurry. Now, there has also been another initiative, that is liberalizing the corporate investment norms as far as infrastructure is concerned. From the limit of $5 billion, it has been increased to $25 billion. And most importantly, now investments can be made even in unlisted companies. There would be no auction. There would be no quota. And today, the bond market for FIs is $40 billion. Look at the quantum of change. I think this change is indeed substantial. The initiatives taken by the Honorable Finance Minister has been in many areas. I'm sure many of you would have heard about the Financial Stability and Development Council. This was an announcement made in the previous year's budget speech and implemented. This council has not only been created, 2 separate meetings of this council has already been held. And what would this council do? This council will look at stability and development issues of our country. And let me share this with you. The United States also has introduced a similar system or a structure in what is called FSOC. You'll be proud to know that we announced it much before the United States introduced it under the Dodd Act. This council will look at interregulatory concerns as also the development of the financial sector in this country. Another major initiative has been what is called the FSLRC, the Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission. What would this do? The Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission would look at the old archaic legislation, rules and regulations in this country. We have been able to identify 60 of them, and we are still counting. What is the objective? The objective is to make each of these legislations, the regulations and the rules, synchronous with each other and transform it into a platform for India to stage its second stage economic reform. Let me give you how archaic some of our rules are. You will find it extremely interesting to know that we have the Indian Trust Act. It is of 1882 vintage. And what does Section 20A of this Act say? That the money of the trust which cannot be invested immediately shall be invested in the securities of state, the central government, and in those of the United Kingdom and Ireland. That is a kind of archaic rules that we have. I personally believe that the initiative of the Finance Minister to have the Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission is indeed laudable, and it would usher in the new stage for reforms. I think in about 24 months, we would have a seamless, highly synchronized, and focused financial sector legislations, rules, and regulations. Now, let me look at the challenges in the financial sector. As in the mutual fund industry, the financial sector regulations in this country would have to pave the way for a new generation of reforms. And how would we be able to do it? First and foremost, let's look at the shallowness of our market as a whole. Only about 25 million people out of 1.3 billion population of ours is either directly or indirectly involved in the capital market. This has to change. This is the sine qua non. Without this, there can be no depth in the market. Without this, there cannot be true progress. First and foremost is what I will call the democratic dividend. China may have faster growth, but India's growth is predicated on the democratic grids, which allows articulation of conflicting interests and views and achieving at a consensual approach. Authoritarian regimes may not be able to suppress human desire or promote growth as well as a democratic country like India. The second dividend is what I will call the demographic dividend. It is a part of the 2Ds. And let's look at the demographic dividend. It's very interesting to note that 30% of our population is less than 15 years, and only 6% above 65. Let's look at it differently. More than half of our population is under 25 years, and 40% under 18. So therefore, India has a distinct advantage in comparison to China and Japan. The other important aspect is the decoupling of Indian economy with that of the world economy. I agree that many of you would say that in an increasingly borderless world, India would have to be coupled with the world economy. That is true. But it is less than a quarter of our GDP is only dependent on exports in comparison to 37% of the GDP of China. And what drives India's growth? The 350 million middle-class population, which is almost 35 to 40 million, more than the entire US population. So the driver is going to be the Indian vibrant middle class. We have indeed come a long way. I'm sure you would agree that we have come a long way. Maybe 2 decades ago, people said when the US sneezed, other nations like India got pneumonia. Well, that situation has probably changed. If Ben Bernanke sneezes today, India is not going to get pneumonia. We may get a fleeting cold. That is the financial sinews which we have been able to achieve.